What's up, Lions fans? Welcome to the Week 4 preview of the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks. In today's episode, we're looking at key matchups on either side of the ball, and then most importantly, we're finishing up with our player prop bets for the week. Last week, our parlay hit. Let's keep it going, baby.
This is the Lions Main Podcast.
Back in the win column, right? Arizona down 2-1, headed into a matchup with a 3-0 Seattle Seahawks. And I got to tell you guys, I always seem to be the pessimist, but they look pretty damn good. So I can't wait to get into our preview for the week. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Lions defense versus Seattle Seahawks offense. Drew, how you doing? What do you got for us?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
It's a great week. We won. Feel bad I missed the preview last week. I was out with pneumonia, man. I was sick as a dog. Missed the parlay hitting, which I got to get one. I got to get myself in the win column here.
Right. I mean, you're starting off 0-3. Who's 0-3 in the league right now? The Bengals, man. You're starting off like Joe Burrow.
I'm only 0-2. I'm 0-2 because I didn't put a pick in. Yeah.
You're right. Get my
we'll maybe make up for that on Thanksgiving or something with a special prop.
Yeah. We'll go ahead to for the listeners that don't know, George is not going to be joining us today. He wanted to go to a concert, man. I mean, I guess this isn't his priority. So him and Drew are going to make up their player prop bets. We're going to call it a little holiday special, maybe a spooky special on Halloween, or a Thanksgiving special, the turkey gobbler special.
Speaking of the Bengals, he's in Cincinnati, right? Eating that Skyline chili?
I think he is. Maybe, I don't know. He's doing some freak stuff. Who knows?
Whatever.
Or maybe he's on a date or something. Didn't he say he's on a date or something?
He might be. I heard she's listening to the pod.
Hey, as long as she listens to the pod, that's all I care about.
But yeah, to just jump into the preview part of the episode. I think it's worth noting, the Seahawks come in 3-0, but here were their games. They opened up against the Broncos in Bo Nix's first game as a pro. Right. Then they played the Patriots, and obviously we know the Patriots are kind of trash. And then they played the Dolphins last week. They blew out the Dolphins, but that's without Tua. Obviously, for the listeners, if they watched that game with Tua, he's been out, and who knows if he's going to return to football. But yeah, it was Skylar Thompson, and I think they won 24-3 or something like it. But I mean, it was I don't know. I think that all three of their wins so far are kind of Mickey Mouse. I think that this is going to be,
100%.
a test for the, Seahawks.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that is a really good point. I mean, it's any given Sunday, and we saw what the Broncos could do. We saw what they did against the Buccaneers last week. But seriously, to your point, the best quarterback that the Seattle Seahawks probably played this year is Bo Nix.
First game, Bo Nix too.
First game, Bo Nix. So I mean, this is their first true test, like you're saying.
Yeah, and to your point, I think it's hard to win a game in the NFL, no matter who you're playing. But I feel like the Lions are coming into this a little bit more battle tested, and I don't know. We potentially have played already 3 playoff teams, and they haven't played any. I mean, you could say the Dolphins without a starting quarterback is not a playoff team.
Not at all.
So we'll see how that plays in. But yeah, I think that the story of the game and you guys will get in this for the other side of the ball, but it's going to be, in my eyes, it's going to be how the defensive line gets after the quarterback and plays against the offensive line. I think that the Seahawks particularly have a weak offensive line. Listening to a couple of the and reading some of what the beat reporters have said for the Seahawks is that they're worried about Aiden, and they're seeing that he's leading the league in sacks with whatever 6.5 or something, 6.5, whatever it is, and they're going into this game. They're going to be looking to chip him, and that's going to be with a running back or whoever's in the backfield. Someone that we know pretty well, K9, Ken Walker, has been out the last 2 games for the Seahawks, but he's looking to play. Obviously, he's big play threat, but he also, if he plays or if it's Charbonnet, they'll be chipping Aiden on the edge there.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the key.
Speaking of that relationship, Drew, Aiden probably wants a little bit of revenge after that game in, what was it, 2021?
I wouldn't have. Anyways, erase from my memory.
What happened, Kane?
Erase from my memory. I want to know.
Should have been 2 Heisman finalists, but one of them got left out unfairly.
Yeah. No, Kenneth Walker, man, no, he's phenomenal. And the fact that he's coming back this week it's honestly just annoying. I just wish that abdominal injury would just last one more week. I never want a player to be injured, but just in one more week, maybe he starts the first drive and he's out. That would be ideal. But if he does start, I mean, you've seen it in the first 2 games. Aiden, like you said, getting chipped, getting double blocked. There was a play from last week where he got past the tight end's block so fast, and then James Conner went to go block him as well to do that double team, that he thought it was a screen. So Aiden went back in front of the blocker, and beat his block again. So I'm thinking that we're going to see a little bit more of that this week as well. So hopefully he can get past it and carry on with the sacks.
I think he will, and I think Drew's point is a good point on the fact that him and the rest of the defensive line are going to need to get home to really lock this game up, because last year what happened, and I think K9, the world of K9, but they didn't do anything on the ground against the Lions last year. I think, if you can continue that, and the Lions' run defense is top 3 in the league right now. Obviously, only 3 games in, but last season was great too. I don't remember the streak, but a ton of games in a row without a 100-yard rusher. I think if we can stop Geno Smith from going 32 for 41 like we did last year, which is just nuts, which I think we will. I mean, it's just a better secondary, just a better team. I think, it won't be as high of a scoring game for them. Now, is that enough to win? The other side of the ball could be different this year, obviously, as well. So, but I think Drew's point is right. They're going to need to get home, put that pressure. He had way too much time last year to sit back and dissect the defense. That's both on the secondary and the defensive line. They held up to the end of the bargain in the run game last year.
Yeah. And I think that what's kind of fun is about this game is I think that there's a mini rivalry between the Lions and the Seahawks, and maybe not as much a rivalry as much as we need, the Lions need to get a win against Seahawks.
We have to.
It feels like, what is it, 3 or 4 years in a row? I don't think Dan Campbell's beaten the Seahawks yet.
No.
But to your point, the run defense has been pretty stellar so far. It's one of the top in the league. They're actually only allowing, I think it was like 2.7 yards per carry to opposing running backs, which is honestly pretty insane. Obviously, with the news of Marcus Davenport being out, that he's officially on IR, meaning he can return week 10, but that's pretty doubtful. It is worth noting Derek Barnes was also put on IR. He's more, from what we know, more of a realistic return.
For sure.
In week 10. And then as far as injuries go, Brian Branch is still, I don't know if he's still in concussion protocol. He's listed as questionable. So it'll be interesting to see how the Seahawks address that or target that, particularly in the slot. I think that's something we've seen BB in defending so far. It's also an area of struggle for us, defending the slot, and that's
for sure,
particularly Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that he's posed to potentially have a big game.
I think there's someone else who I think of as a lion killer, which is Tyler Lockett.
Yeah,
he literally every single season, DK has some big catches. Obviously, Smith and Jigba was a rookie last year, but other guys get catches, tight ends. But every year, Tyler Lockett. And by the way, it is 3 years in a row that we've lost to them. But I do think that's the matchup to watch. I mean, it can't get worse than last year in terms of the one-on-one matchup with DK on the outside. But obviously, they're probably going to go after that, especially with Terry on to try to draw a couple flags. But
for sure,
all in all, it is going to be really dependent on what can Carlton Davis do, or what can those two corners do against DK and whoever's on the whether it be Tyler Lockett or Smith and Jigba and whoever they're using in the slot. I think Amik Robertson obviously is a slight decrease from Brian Branch in terms of who's in the slot. However, the overall secondary is better because Amik Robertson is a solid slot and Brian Branch is a great safety. So if they can have a safety, Brian Branch, and if he comes back and is healthy this week, I think you've got 6 guys plus Ennis Rakestraw. You've got 7 guys to throw at that really stout passing attack. So, look, I don't think any of the offenses we played yet are bad offenses, and none of them have torn us to shreds. So I don't think this is a team. I don't think there's really any team in the NFL that can tear us to shreds at this point. And I mean, any given Sunday, but I believe in that secondary.
No, yeah, that's a good point. And then the first thing you brought up, Drew, talked about those injuries. So replacing Barnes out there, you guys think you want to see Germ out there or Malcolm Rodriguez more out there on the field?
So I'll go quickly then let Drew. I think it's going to end up being, if Anzalone's healthy, obviously the two, when they're in a 2 linebacker off ball, it's going to be Anzalone and Campbell. However, when they do have that third linebacker, when they're doing kind of that what Barnes' role was as that almost like old school defensive end outside linebacker. Yeah, I would rather see Germ in that role, like if they're running that type of defense, because I think he's a rangier, kind of more coverage type player. If it's the traditional 3 stand up off ball linebacker, give me Malcolm, because he's still great in run defense, except for when Baker Mayfield's taking his pants off. But, right. But I think they're going to use a combination of those guys, and I think we'll also see Ben Neiman, who came in a little bit in that game. I don't know anything about him, but shout out also to Trevor Nowaski, who doesn't know me, but played with my brother at Saginaw Valley. So hopefully he gets a few reps as well.
Yeah, so I think you're. Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, Jim, I think you're spot on. I think it's, I personally would want to see Jerem in there. Especially in anything that's going to be potential, drop back, pass downfield. I think he's better in coverage. Yeah. I do think we'll see Malcolm in there on obvious blitzing downs and situations, obvious run downs. But yeah, it will be interesting to see with Anzalone as well, who should be playing. I think the list is questionable.
I think he'll definitely play. I mean, a week. Come on, get him back out there. It's been a week already.
But yeah, I just to kind of get back to it, I don't know if you guys know, but like Geno's, granted it's bad defense, but he's kind of been popping off. He didn't have a great last game. I think he had 270 some yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, but he's leading the league in completions right now. And I think he's like 3rd or something in yards. So he's kind of been tearing up opposing defenses. Yeah. And kind of to jump back to a point I'm kind of curious. Lockett to me kind of reminds me of Golden Tate. I don't know if that was you mentioned him as a line killer. I just feel like that's the role he's played against us. Like clutch, kind of like maybe it's like his body size, like kind of like the way he moves in the field.
The only thing I will say, I agree with you, but their personalities are the complete opposite. Like they are. Golden Tate is like the most like holy Christian. Like apparently he like waited.
You mean Tyler Lockett?
Yeah, sorry, Lockett. Oh yeah, Lockett. Yeah, no, sure.
Hold on.
No,
you would never buy a jersey of someone that was that Christian, bro.
I want to say not that Christian, but someone who doesn't have that dog in them, like Golden Tate. So yeah, it's a slightly different personality.
Goody two shoes. Someone that goody two shoes is a better way to put it.
Right, goody two shoes. Yeah, but I can see definitely somebody having like the body style. Sometimes coming in outside, also playing within the slot. I can definitely see that comparison.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the mix of the matchup is. Obviously DK is bigger, more physical. Like my first instinct is like, oh, they'll put Carlton on him, kind of a bigger guy. But I also think like we've talked about it kind of to a nauseum. It's like if Terrion wants to get away with a little hand shoving, I think he's way more likely to get away with that against DK than Lockett. So
yeah, definitely for sure. And DK probably want to throw some hands at some point in the game, so he might get away with that. And honestly, looking at that matchup, Metcalf's had a pretty decent year so far. I think just throw Kirby over the top. If we're talking about matchup, just throw Kirby over the top, baby. He'll get it
Kirby's
done.
gonna, if they throw deep, I guarantee you, because although Geno's had a good year, he's also thrown some picks. Like he threw for a bunch of yards against the Dolphins, who have obviously Jalen Ramsey, but I would say are lesser secondary than us. And he hasn't been as turnover prone as Goff. Actually, similar, but he's had 3 picks. Kirby, you throw deep over the top, just like Kyler did. Kirby's a ball hawk, dude. Kirby, if you saw his stat, I think he's got the lowest completion percentage. I don't know if it's just safeties or all DBs, but like when targeted over a certain yardage, he's got the lowest he's allowed a QBR of 0.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So,
I mean, to be honest, it hasn't been the over the top balls that have like hurt us. It's been all over the middle, short pass, the slot, like
which is fine.
Well, you say it's fine. I saw this stat. I didn't fact check it, but I saw that the Lions defense is actually allowing the most passing yards to opposing teams' quarterbacks in the league. Like 600
that stat doesn't feel right.
Or to opposing wide receivers, I guess.
Maybe to receivers, because I know that in both the Bucs and the Cardinals games, the QBs threw for under 200, so that might be skewed by. I'm not doubting what you're saying. I don't know what the stat is, because Baker only threw for 185, and now they might be allowing the most yards per route or something like that to receivers.
Maybe,
but I do feel like they've held 2, not world beater quarterbacks, but Geno Smith level quarterbacks to sub 200 yards with a pick. Even Baker, kudos to him for winning the game. Did not have like an amazing game against the Lions. He was 12 for 19.
Yeah.
Again, not dissing him. He had a good game. He won the game. He did enough to win the game between his legs, his arm, but like he didn't beat us. He wasn't a world beater. I do think, to your point though, Drew, like it's not all long balls with them, and they can cut you up down the field. And the difference is at that point, like if they convert more of their red zone opportunities than other teams have against us, or than we do against them, that's when you get into trouble with like a bend don't break defense that we're kind of playing right
now. No, I think that stat, if it's true, I didn't fact check it. If it's true, it's definitely skewed, because I would say, I've got nothing to really back this up, but I'd be willing to bet that the Lions have played 3 of the best if you look at the opposing quarterbacks that the Lions have played so far, and on average, they're probably better than almost every other team, right? Because they're playing Matt Stafford, who's elite, Kyler, who's borderline elite, Baker, who's kind of in that same class as Goff, almost elite, kind of that middle ground. But if you look at who the Seahawks have played, they've played literally the bottom, maybe 5 of the worst QBs.
Yeah,
maybe the worst 3, honestly. In Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, and Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson's the worst QB.
That's Bryce Young era, sure, but yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see. I do think if I were, looking at the holes, I do think that the slot continues to be something that, we're having trouble addressing, but, so I think that's going to be a key to the game. And then the other key is getting after quarterback, kind of what I let off with. It's going to be Aiden. It's going to be, DJ Reader stopping kind of everything up front, and seeing if we can get after the quarterback with 4 guys.
So are those your key matchups? What you're saying? You're saying Aiden and DJ Reader. Sorry, my cat jumped on my desk.
Yeah, I would
Aiden
say
and DJ Reader.
I would say it's Aiden with whichever tackle he's matching up against. I think that his inside spin move is going to be crucial to avoid that chip. I would look out for that today.
Yeah,
patent inside spin, and then I think that if it's BB back or whoever's lining up in to guard the slot.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Against likely Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, no. I think those are some good matchups to look out for. And I'm intrigued going into this game. I hope that we carry on how we've been throughout this year, and we might give up some yards, in the middle of the field, but we definitely stay stout and get really strong within the red zone. So I'm hopeful that that's all it is, the yards that we've been giving up. But I think we'll be fine moving into.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm ready to write Gino off, and I'm ready for him to not
right back.
Yeah, that's gonna get us fucked up. So don't say that.
All right, is now a good time to move to the other side of the ball?
Jim, I think that now is a perfect time. What are you thinking, Jim?
Good. So I think kind of the almost an opposite story here. I think for the Seahawks to win this game, they're going to need to shut down our running game.
Yeah,
their secondary is lights out. They have probably the best young corner tandem in the league between Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen. They have Love as a safety. Their secondary is just stout in general. They do have a good pass rush as well. And Wosu is a really good pass rusher. They've got Leonard Williams up front. They've got Boye Mafe. They've got I could keep going. They've got
a solid team.
Byron Murphy, and Derek Hawley. And so they've got all these guys that can really get after the passer. I do think the Lions, two things. I think they have a lot of injuries up front. There's a potential for several of their guys to be out, which would be good, especially because Frank Ragnow they've already said he's probably not playing.
Yeah.
So what I think is going to come down to is they've been okay against the run this year. I think in their 3 games, if you look at against the run, I'm not going to count anything against the Dolphins with Skylar, what's his name, Skylar White, or what the hell's his name, at quarterback, and then Tim Boyle was out there.
Skylar Thompson,
Skylar White, Skylar Thompson, and Tim Boyle is like nightmare. So that doesn't
Breaking
count.
Bad.
That's Breaking Bad. Never even seen the show, but the Patriots were one-dimensional against them, and were still able to put up 185 rushing yards. And we have just as good of a backfield or a O-line as they do. And I think you look at Week 1, the Broncos put up about 100. So I do think we'll be able to run the ball. And I think it's up to Goff then to kind of make the right decisions with the football. I think he's struggled a little bit this year. I thought he was crisp last game, obviously outside of the one pick he threw. That was really his only turnover-worthy play, I thought, that game. So I think he was a lot better last game. But he's facing a secondary that will not be forgiving this game. So I think he's got to be a lot crisper than he was, particularly against the Buccaneers. He did not look great against the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So I think if Goff comes out, makes some easy throws, some of those, and they establish the run, I think they'll be in good shape. I think the Seahawks, again, great secondary, great pass rush, okay against the run. And that's what it's going to come down to is, can we run the ball, control the clock, and not get into this big-time shootout? Because I think our defense is good enough to avoid a shootout, and I don't know that our offense is in rhythm enough yet. This could be a great game. This could be the game where the offense starts clicking again, where Goff comes out and slings it. We've seen in the past where he comes back. But based on the first 3 games, I think the path to victory is running the football and getting some short to intermediate passing going on, and avoiding throwing at particularly Devon Witherspoon, and just getting the easy plays, taking what the defense gives you, moving the ball.
Mm-hmm. I remember, just to interject, I remember Devon Witherspoon coming out of the draft. I loved him coming out of the draft. That was when I think he was on our big board. I mean, we don't actually ever really know it's on Brett Holmes' big board, but a lot of people, analysts were predicting that was a target for the Lions. And I remember, dude's a dog, and one of the things you had mentioned that I'm kind of interesting. I don't know if you've read anything, but what the Lions plan to do to address the absence of Frank Ragnow. I'm pretty sure he's officially ruled out.
Yeah. So it's a good question. You're right. He has been ruled out. So they're going to shift over, my assumption based on what they've done in the past, they're going to shift over Graham Glasgow, and then they're going to bring up one of the guys, whether it be Awosika. I almost said ayahuasca. Yeah. Whether they bring up ayahuasca.
What are you, Aaron Rodgers? Darkness retreat?
I have been on a few in my life. No, whether they bring up ayahuasca or peyote.
You can tell by his hair.
I got my drug hair today. But Awosika, there you go. I almost fucked up again. Or some of the guys that they have back there, Matt Nelson, etc. They have guys that are depth pieces that can step in as guard for one game. And I think particularly, again, if the Seahawks D-line is injured, and particularly if you see Byron Murphy out or Leonard Williams out, there's a real good opportunity to run. And I think one of the things I've seen them do in the past, which, is really run behind Penei Sewell, just especially as you get into that third, fourth quarter. If it's a tight game and we're able to continue to run the ball in the late game, we don't have to rely on kind of chucking the ball around to get yardage. I think you'll see what you saw in game one, which is, put Zeitler on the right side next to Penei Sewell and just run the ball. Because Zeitler has had a quietly fantastic year. He's been our best interior player, including Ragnow so far this year. And it's been Penei and him. Ragnow's had, obviously been dealing with injuries, so he hasn't been perfect, but still been good. Same with Glasgow. And Decker's been solid. But I think they're going to shift over Graham Glasgow for sure to center. He's a capable center. He'll do the job well. So, if it's a fall off from the best center in the league to a good center. And then the real fall off is from a good guard to, a backup guard. So as long as we don't get punished too much on that backup guard spot, I think it's, if you have 4 linemen who I would say are like B plus and above, I still think you have a great offensive line. And so I think our offensive line's in a lot better shape than theirs is.
No, you're with the Zeitler stuff. I think he's been fantastic. I think he's probably been one of the most pleasant. So obviously, he came in as a former Pro Bowler, but for me, I didn't know what to expect, and he's been stellar. He's been as good as anybody on our O-line, and that's including Penei.
Yeah. Old as hell, but he's not showing any signs of being old like I thought he might. I thought like the Ravens. I mean, you can see in their record 1-2, and they haven't been able to run it as well. They let a lot of guys go, like Zeitler, and I think the thought was we want to get younger, even if that means getting worse temporarily. But like Zeitler is doing exactly what Brad Holmes brought him on for. If he keeps playing this way, they should just throw another 1-year contract at him.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to go ahead and address the other injury potentially on the line. How about Laporta? You guys think he's going to play? If he doesn't play, do you think that's a kind of obvious question, but do you think Brock Wright suffices in that role, or we're going to see a steep drop off?
He's not. Go ahead, Drew.
I didn't know if you wanted to take this one.
Sure. I'll go, and then why don't you fill in whatever you think makes sense. I think he will play. I wouldn't mind if he didn't play, just because it is a low ankle sprain, so I'm not a sports medicine guy. I don't know the exact ramifications, but I think worst case scenario is he just re-aggravates that. So I think it's a swelling and pain management thing, is my understanding. So that means if he can play at all, if he's not in brutal pain, he will play. If it was an injury, a longer term injury, I'd say, I think what they're doing with Ragnow, which is you don't want him out for the season just to win one game,
right?
Because it's a long season. So I think he'll play, and even if he's goes out again periodically or for the rest of the game at some point, I think the offense changes. I don't think Brock Wright's the same tight end, but I also think through the first 3 games, and that might be the reason the Lions offense has looked a little more static, is because he hasn't been that guy. But I don't think they're going to see too much of a drop off in the first 3 games. I think what you'll see is if he's not out there, I think you'll see a lot more heavy personnel with 2 tight ends running the football, kind of quick passing yards. I think with the longer developing plays, Laporta, a lot of times, at least what I was looking at in the offseason, is a lot of times the 4th option on a play, but Goff knows that he's going to, him and Amon-Ra are 2 guys that are going to find a way to get open if the play breaks down and the offensive line gives them enough time. And a lot of that stuff that Laporta caught last year, if you look at some of his biggest catches of the year, were off schedule, random, Goff is has no one open and Laporta just goes, all right, I'm going to move to that spot. So
yeah.
Obviously that's a huge loss, but I think the offense won't look any worse than it has the first 3 weeks. I just think it won't look as good as it did last season if he's out.
From what I read, and maybe as the resident doctor here, the big concern with ankle sprains is the high ankle. This is not any of my medical school knowledge. Just it's actually my just fandom knowledge. You're really concerned about high ankle sprains, right. I read somewhere that one of the team doctors said this is one of the lowest low ankle sprains. It's essentially, from what I gather, it's basically rolling your ankle while you're playing pickup basketball. So I'd be shocked if he didn't play. Again,
okay.
I actually think Brock Wright played pretty well, especially in the first quarter. I don't think we're missing much. I think that, Ben Johnson does really good job at scheming tight ends open, especially Brock Wright for some reason.
Yeah, I know. Hey, shout out to that winner against the Jets 2 years ago. That 60-yard touchdown pass. That was phenomenal.
Brock Wright is one of the best. He's one. I don't even know about best, but he's just one of the most reliable tight end twos in the league. Like he'll like go nowhere for or you just won't hear about him for 4 weeks at a time. He'll get like 1 catch for 8 yards, and then out of nowhere he'll be like 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah,
and you're like, or like 2 catches for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we signed him to a longer term deal in the offseason.
We did because the 49ers were
that's right.
Trying to sign him away. And it looked like he was going to go there for a second, so we said, "Screw that! We're giving you a 3-year, $12 million with 4.6 guaranteed." Dude's an undrafted free agent, so he's already far exceeded that expectation, and now he's got a guaranteed. It says 4.6 is fully guaranteed with 6 guaranteed. So I don't know exactly what that means, to be honest. Yeah. But he's he's as dependable as they come. I don't think he's Sam Laporta. I don't think anybody would say he's Sam Laporta, but like if he needs to be your spot, like he'd be a very low end tight end 1 and a very high end tight end 2 is what he is.
Yeah, I agree.
Kyle Shanahan really wants to be us, huh?
Stealing our plays, stealing our players. I mean, smart. I would if I was him. So
I guarantee you see that hook and ladder this week again.
That would actually be crazy if we saw that. That would be crazy. They like running that. They love running that like reverse that we ran against them in the playoffs. They love that.
Yeah.
And so does every other college team.
I got 2 quick things. Just to add before we transition away from the side of the ball. Get to the picks. But first, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Allen Robinson was elevated to 53. Also, Tim Patrick was signed officially. So he's, for the last 3 weeks, he's just been elevated. It's something that it's in the rostering rules where you can elevate and then send back down. And Jim, you might know this, but I think there's a certain amount of weeks you can do it in a row before being forced to sign the player.
I think it's 4 weeks in a row.
Which Tim Patrick's right there. I've loved seeing Tim Patrick out there. I think he's awesome for our offense, just as that wide receiver 3. But Allen Robinson got signed, which I doubt we even see him. Kind of plays the same position as Tim Patrick.
Yeah,
big outside.
I like having both of them on the roster for that third option. So that's a good shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Lastly, I'd like to see Khalif get some action actually this game. They barely used Khalif this year.
He fair caught a punt last week that he had like 20 yards of space.
Yeah, I want them to get him involved in like the run game or the passing game. Like I'm gonna make a shot. I'm gonna make a call right now. Khalif Raymond has at least one play of 15 plus yards this week.
Bet
on it, but like his plays directly are the exact same plays that they scheme up for Jameson Williams. So if I had to choose between either of the two getting the ball, feed James with the ball.
His role is always like, and this is why he's good as like that wide receiver 3-4 scat back kind of guy. It's like the Jamos and the Amon-Ra's and the Laportas of the world, and even the running backs are going to get keyed on. Yeah. So that's going to be all the focus. So they're going to leave their worst defender or the zone. They're going to not even think about him. Or just
forget about him. Yeah.
Or forget about him altogether. And that's how it happens, where he looks like, and they scheme it up so he looks like he's like the 4th option, but really he's the 2nd look.
Yeah.
If Jamo's not open, if Amon-Ra's not open, you go bang, right there, he's open. So that's how I think he gets a lot of. I could be dead wrong on that, but that's my feeling is like when he gets a look, it's because everyone's looking at like, oh, Amon-Ra, we got to go guard him.
Yep.
But yeah.
No, you're right on that. So just a little transition into the next segment, our player prop bets. You said that the Detroit Lions running game doesn't slow down. I mean, saw that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, 70 yards each game, both of them. You think that continues into this week?
Oof. Both 70-plus yards. I think total yards for both, yes. Rushing yards, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. That's a perfect segue then into what our player prop bets are. Drew, you up first, baby.
Well, hey, we got to give we got to give George his chance here. He technically has the first pick, yeah.
Yeah, no, he has the first pick, but he's not here to actually give it. And I mean, he texted it in, but you didn't get the option to get your first pick last week. So, yeah,
we'll do that.
We'll do the double up.
Yeah, you
on our
choose
holiday special.
You choose a concert,
double up
with a pod.
You don't get a pick.
You don't get a pick. Well, you don't get at least first pick.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to see what Ben Johnson does this week. I think it's been, so far, he's been kind of, all over the board. Really just with that second game, Goff passing 55 sometimes, whatever it was. I think we saw him get back to the bread and butter last week. And I will preface this by saying, I'm 0-2 on my picks. And I really loved the Jackson Smith and Jigba over receiving yards this week. That was over 48.5. He's going to play in the slide. He's going to tear us up. But I would not feel. I don't feel good about making that pick when I'm 0-2. I can't pick the over for the other team when I'm sitting here at 0-2. I'm gonna live and die. If I start 0-3 and I lose this, I'm gonna lose it with my boy Monty. David Montgomery over rushing yards. I think Ben Johnson figured out. He saw last week what it does. 64.5. I don't see any reason. He got over 100 last week. If he gets 15 carries, I feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's also a statement to say, I'm hoping the Lions come in and take care of business and are running the ball a lot in the third and fourth quarter. So that's my pick.
Yeah.
Monty, tried and true bread and butter.
Yeah. It's a good pick.
Really gave that one a spiel on that one. Get that one a backstory and everything.
I had to set it out. I give you a little fucking novel.
Yeah, you almost put me to sleep. All right, so I got a question.
Story.
I got a question for player props. Well, do we have to do yards, or can I choose like touchdowns, interceptions, or does it have to be yards?
I think it should be. You should stay away from touchdowns. Touchdowns are stupid because they're all like 0.5. Unless you're looking at like.
I'll stay away from the interceptions then. Alrighty, I got mine anyways.
Give it to us.
So I think it's a big week. Unlike you, Jim, I think I'm going to double down on it. And so Drew took the Monty over 64.5.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and take the Jahmyr Gibbs over 52.5.
I like it. I like them both. I think they're both going to hit. It's the thing.
So I think they are. I mean, we've seen what they've done the first 3 weeks. I don't see why not.
Seen what you've done for others, God. No, I like it a lot. I think, where's the rushing plus receiving? Honestly, that's one I was tempted to take on Jahmyr Gibbs as well, but no, that's a little higher. That's a little too high.
Yeah.
I like those two. I like those two a lot. So I like both those picks.
I took his pick. That's why he's stalling.
No. I actually, so I'm deciding between two picks on Seahawks receivers. I think I've gone under James Conner last week. I think I went under Rachaad White, and then game one, I don't really remember what I picked, to be honest, but I was right. I think I'm gonna go. Man, you know what? There's two picks. There's one that's an under for one of their players, and there's one that's an over for one of their players, and I think they're both going to happen. I'm going to stick with screw the other team. I'm going to go DK Metcalf under 62.5. My alternate that I would have picked, which I'm just going to track in my head and remember if I'm intelligent, is over 43.5 for Tyler Lockett. That's not the pick for this week. But if you're looking for another, because look, I think what we said earlier, Kirby Joseph has been back there like a literal just like crow or ball hawk sitting back there watching, seeing what's happening, picking the ball off. Like no one's been able to, like DK, obviously a big boy, but Terrion has been literally with the guy every time. He hasn't been letting up like massive plays. He's been getting PIs.
And to your point, that wouldn't count as that wouldn't count as receiving.
That would
yards,
not count.
So.
That would not count. So I'm going under on that. But that means I do think the over is going to hit for both Smith and Jigba, and Lockett. I think you're going to see DK, and I don't know what George Font's their tight ends over is, probably like 30 yards. I honestly think you could pick the over on all three of those guys and the under on DK. Is my thought, because that bend don't break defense. That's what's going to happen.
I think this is a parlay that's worth putting in. What do you guys think?
Simple.
Do we think the line's going to cover? It's -3.5.
Yeah. What do you guys think the actual score of the game's going to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think I've now been wrong on that aspect, severely wrong every single game. I've thought the last two are going to be shootouts, which was just dead wrong. I'm going to go the opposite way here. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I think the Lions win but don't cover. I personally think the Lions will win the game. I think the Lions will win the game 27-24.
I'm pretty close to you on there. I'm pretty close to you. I like that one. I'm going Lions 24, Seahawks 21.
Yeah, I kind of second what you guys said. Jim, I don't think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. Yeah, I'll say 23-20.
Yeah,
Lions.
That's a good pick. Honestly, I like 23-20. That's kind of where my head went.
It's gonna be a lot of. I think it's gonna be a lot of field goals. I think the ball's like. I think it could be a pretty boring game. It is prime time, which is gonna be fun. But
field goal city, eh?
We'll see. We gotta get one. We gotta get one.
Yeah.
I used to live in Seattle. I lived in Seattle for 3 years, and it's like they've been chirping me. Yeah. My Seattle buddies. That like Lions can't beat the Seahawks. Now, Pete Carroll chewing gum. He's gone. Is the head coach a Michigan guy? Or one of the coordinators?
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of the defensive coordinators he's a Baltimore Ravens guy, and not to get into all of it, but the Harbaughs basically have switched defensive coordinators throughout the years. That's why Michigan was such an amazing defense. But yeah, he is essentially.
I will say I would love to see a complete game from the Lions. I would love to see them just come out and roll them. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it would be awesome to see just a complete game. Obviously,
if we lose, we have to blow up and tear down the Space Needle. We have to. Okay. I don't care if it's a plane, a bomb, whatever it is. We're blowing the Space Needle up if we lose.
Hey, nothing
I'll
ever.
I'll save that for the bloopers that will not be in the video.
Nothing.
Well, thank everybody for joining the Week 4 preview of the Detroit Lions versus Seattle Seahawks. See our player prop bets, see our parlay on Instagram. Make sure if you guys want to win a little bit of money, throw it in, support the team. See you guys next week.
And don't forget, nothing good ever comes from Seattle.
Right.